All right. Welcome back to Skyward, the podcast that brings you behind the scenes of the aviation aerospace industry. I'm your host, Pilot Mercedes, and today I'm going to go through 5 of the things I wish I knew before I went into aviation. Let's get started.
The captain has turned on the seatbelt light. Please take your seat and fasten your seatbelts. Thank you.
5 things that I wish I knew before I got into aviation. So I'm going to go through these 5 points and I'm going to tell you what I did, what I would do differently, and why I think it's important. So let's get started. All right, so the very first one is build a community in aviation. If you already have a great support group outside of aviation, that's fantastic. But what I didn't know was that having a community in the aviation aerospace industry is so important, because while your outside support is really important, inside the aviation industry, others will understand what you're going through even more and be able to help you grow and get through any obstacles that you face. So what I did is I didn't know about the 99s until later on in my training. The 99s and Women Aviation International are 2 women organizations that help pilots and anyone interested in aviation aerospace have a community and grow in their industries. So they have scholarships, they have meetups, they have conferences. It is just an amazing resource for anybody interested in becoming a pilot. I would highly recommend it. So that's the 99s, founded by Amelia Earhart, by the way, and Women Aviation International. And again, both of these are actually international organizations. So I'm in Canada, but I initially joined the 99s in the States. So they all have their different chapters. You just have to go on their websites and find out where your specific chapter is, and you can contact them to join, and they'll help you out and bring you in. So I wish I knew about those first, because what I initially did before any of these, I was a lone wolf, and I had a great family and friend outside of aviation support, but I did not foster an aviation community. And I wish I did that faster, because once I started to embrace it, my training, my studying became so much easier, because I had like-minded people that were facing the same struggles as I was and able to help me through some of the things that maybe I couldn't figure out on my own, or I just wasn't getting as easily, and they could explain it to me the way they learned it. So just that camaraderie and community that, while your instructor is fantastic, you don't always have their attention all the time. So that student collective community is so important to help you get through your studies and your flight training, and especially with the emotional ups and downs of dealing with flight training, because you're so critical of yourself and analyzing every little thing. Just having a community of bouncing your experiences off of one another, it makes you feel less alone. And while it's not good to compare yourself to others, it helps you move forward as well. So having a healthy community is so important. And that's what I would do differently. I would embrace that so much faster and try and build that so much faster. So that's number 1, building community. Number 2 is preparing for transitions. This specific point is because I started in Canada in a small flight school, and where you do your flight training as you're able to. However, I moved from this flight school when I finished my PPL to an American flight school, similar style to Embry-Riddle. So very structured, Part 141, very structured. You're on a path, and different country. Canada and the US have very similar, but very different ways of teaching things. So while a lot of the skills and knowledge is transferable, how you demonstrate those skills and knowledge is a at least how I experienced it in this very structured environment, was very different. The US has a lot more, at least I found, heavier oral exams. And if you don't know what that is, basically when you get into a check ride, you have your oral portion where you're sitting down and your examiner is asking you questions and you have to verbally explain your answers. And that can take up to different varying amounts of times depending on the license, the rating that you're going for, and also how you're doing with each question that you're being asked. So the more you know, the faster you get through it and the more confident you are. The less confident you are about things, and if you slip up on a couple things, the longer your oral is going to be. So I wasn't completely prepared for that. I felt it was a little more relaxed when I was at my other flight school. So that was a big change. And keep in mind, I was 16 when I did my PPL check ride in Canada. And I moved to this flight, the American flight school when I was 17 and shortly turning 18. So it was it was like going from a small little high school kind of idea to like a major university, and you knew nobody. So very different feel. But the point is, I didn't prepare for it properly. I didn't prepare as much as I should have. I didn't think I would have to play catch up. I thought it was very easily transferable. I should have looked over all of the different things, from how the Americans log their hours is different, how the airspaces are different. Canada and America are very similar, but there's some very defining differences that you have to know. And how they explain certain terms, or how deep they go into at least again at this specific flight school, how deeply I would need to know these certain subjects that I didn't know. Also, different air law. The air law is very similar, but very different. So if I was to redo my transition from Canadian small flight school to American big flight school, I would have sat down and studied more of the air law, the logging of hours, and the differences in airspaces, especially like the maps. The maps are also a bit different in how they do things. Again, very similar, but still some differences that are enough to trip you up in any kind of check ride and stuff like that. So that's why it's really important, if you're expecting to do something like this, take it as a warning, do your homework. So that's number 2. And moving into number 3, balance speed through your flight training with personal well-being. Why it's important. You have to be physically capable and able to, in order to do what you love, in order to do what you're dreaming to be, a pilot in the air. So you need to be rested, you need to be focused, but in order to do those things, you need to be able to have the right nutrients, you need to have the right amount of rest, you need to take care of yourself in order to be the best pilot that you can be. I did not do that. I still did pretty well, if I don't say so myself, but I did not take care of myself. I was struggling a lot with getting enough sleep because I was spending so much time studying and not enough time taking purposeful rest. I wasn't feeding myself properly. I didn't know. I went straight from living at home to living on my own, and I had no idea how to cook properly. I was drinking protein shakes, so that's not too bad. But I would forget to eat. And then I would have ice cream for dinner because I'm like, well, it's too late to eat dinner, 9 o'clock at night. I would just eat ice cream. So poor life choices, not taking care of myself, which doesn't help the brain comprehend what I'm studying as well as it could have been. But that also leads to harder to regulate emotions and the insecurities that I specifically had with my flight training. I was and I still am very critical of myself. I am my worst critic despite everything. So that is a lot easier to manage and be factual when your body and mind align with each other and you're feeding your body what it needs to think properly and comprehend all of the information that's coming your way. So, balance pushing through your flight training, the speed of how fast you're going, from the pressure from your flight school, because I had that, and the pressure from yourself, feeling like you're behind, someone else got their check ride, and you're feeling, oh no, they got their check ride first, and I'm still X amount of hours away, I'm so behind. If you're not taking care of yourself, you're not even going to enjoy passing that check ride. So there's no point wasting possibly hours flying that you're not at your best. It's better to take maybe one day of rest to get yourself back to where you need to be at peak performance for your studying and your flying. So that's what I would do differently. I would have definitely a big talking to myself if I went back in time, and I would be like, you need to learn how to cook. You need to learn how to sleep. You need to learn how to rest without letting your mind race and just study all the time, but you're not actually completely studying all the time because you're so drained, so tired that you're kind of reading the same information 5 times because you have nothing left in you. Take a break, take a meaningful break, realign, and then studying for 1 hour will be way more meaningful than studying for 5 hours. So that's what I would do if I talked to myself back in time. The next one is life events. Don't end your aviation journey. I kind of thought this for many years. I was on a path for going to the airlines at a young age, getting all of my hours really quickly, but then I had my health issues in 2019, as some of you may know from a previous episode with my sister. That all came to a halt. And then COVID hit, and then life events, and then. So I kind of, in my mind was going for, flying in the USA and everything like that. And obviously I'm not right now at all. I am working on my Canadian flight instructor rating now. This is 6 years later. So definitely not where younger me would think present me would be at. But I'm also thankful for all the lessons I've learned in the in-between. But I had to overcome the idea that it was too late. That because my journey came to a sudden halt didn't mean it was over. Halt and over are 2 very different things. And I also had to learn that the hard way. That's important because if you have a dream to become a pilot, life doesn't stop. You can definitely try and get through as fast as possible. Like you can get through being a pilot, all the training and stuff with no life and everything, probably within 2 years, depending on weather and all these other factors, right? But and money, of course. But life doesn't stop. whatever point that you start your training, life is still going on with family, with friends. If you're not taking care of your health, that like I did, that if you don't take care of your body will stop you so that you go and take care of it. But my point for saying this is that they happen no matter what. It's just up to you whether or not you let that completely crush you and stop you from ever pursuing your dream, or you take a moment, whatever that moment is. Maybe that moment's a year, maybe that's, say like me, 5 years, 6 years, before you get back more full force, or maybe a different intensity, but still going in that same direction. Maybe you needed that pause because of various factors, but it's the decision of whether or not you go back. It's the decision of whether or not you say, this dream is worth it. I see the goal. I still see the end in sight. It's a little farther off in age, time than I expected or wished or hoped. But it's accepting that sometimes you have to prioritize other things in life for a moment. But then you go back to the dream. So that's what I wish I knew before I got into aviation, is that life happens. And I know people definitely told me this, and I was, 18, 19, and I was like, yeah, life happens. I'm on this path and I don't really care. Nothing like that's going to happen to me. Joke's on me. So take that as an encouragement and a note. Everyone's path is different. Everyone's experience is different. So try not to compare yourselves to someone else that had a seemingly easy straight shot to the airlines, for example, versus your own journey, which may have taken you years to get your PPL and then your instrument rating and commercial. But the point is, you're getting there. You're getting there one step at a time. So next up is, the most important, possibly, is embrace the intense learning curve. Kind of connected to my point of transferring schools. They don't say learning aviation is like drinking from a fire hose for no reason. It is so much information. You think high school was hard? Learning everything in aviation for ground school, for like your PPL, especially your PPL, because that's your first entry into becoming a pilot. You're hit with law, meteorology, figuring out all the technical stuff of your aircraft, just all these different terms, and you have so many abbreviations that you're trying to remember, and then you're trying to regulate yourself properly, and then demonstrate that you know all this, while trying to keep your sanity. So everyone goes through it. Everyone has this moment of, oh my gosh, can I actually do this? And how I would say probably most of us do it is just one step at a time. We have that, oh my gosh. And then we go, okay, let's learn this piece of information. What is Airspace Alpha? Okay, what is Airspace Bravo? And then going through, just memorizing it and trying to make it bite-sized and understandable for your specific learning style. And that's where all of these points come to play. But we all hit that point. I knew it was a lot, but going back to my transfer from Canada, learning it was a lot, learning my PPL in Canada. I took a month off of school just to get it done, it was just every day waking up and studying this to get my PPL done, because otherwise it would have taken longer. So that was and I was 15 when I started. So I learned about aviation and started flying before I could drive. So, while it's a little bit easier to learn how to drive after you started flying a plane, the knowledge test for a driver's test becomes so much simpler compared to trying to learn all of the ground knowledge you need to have and demonstrate for your PPL. It is a fire hose. And then transferring countries is a whole different story. You feel like you're playing catch up like no tomorrow. I felt so lost when I went from Canada to the US and I was trying to remember all of the differences and undo the knowledge that I had from Canada to the US, specifically with airspace, with air law. There's a lot of similarities, but getting that wrong means you're incorrect on your check ride, which is terrifying. So it took me a while to undo some knowledge from Canada to transfer to the US, and now I've transferred back. So now I'm just trying to remember the two of them and keep them in their separate buckets at this point. But it's a fire hose and it does get better. Like at this point, I'm playing refresher. I'm trying to remember all of the knowledge. Like I still open up the P-hack here and there because I'm like, okay, maybe I should look at this for a little bit and just see what I remember and see if there's something I need a refresher on. It's also why we have instrument proficiency checks every so often. They're really handy. So those are my 5 things I wish I knew before getting into aviation and becoming a pilot. So just to go over it one more time is build a supportive and strong community in aviation. Find it either in your flight school or if you're a female pilot like the 99s and Women Aviation International, they're amazing resources. Prepare for a transition between schools or even instructors. That can sometimes be a decent change because you're dealing with different personalities that you work. If you found a good instructor initially and then that instructor's gone off to the airlines or somewhere else and you're having to adapt to a new teacher, that can be a very big transition. Give yourself grace. It's big every time. Everyone deals with that emotional realization and struggle of change. That's all part of being a pilot, so give yourself grace in those moments. 3, balance flight training speed, getting through your flight training as fast as possible with keeping yourself healthy. Make sure you're eating. Make sure you're drinking water. Make sure you're sleeping properly, getting enough rest and getting enough meaningful rest. If you're feeling burnt out, it's probably wise for you to take a day or two just to recalibrate yourself, get yourself in the right mindset, and then go back full force with your best foot forward than your most burnt out foot forward. Life events don't end your journey. It's up to you whether or not you end your journey. You can always pick it back up if it is truly your dream and you're truly determined to become a pilot. It doesn't end, it ends with you. And lastly, embrace the learning curve. It's brutal. We all hate it. It's all we all get overwhelmed. But if you embrace it and then take it one step at a time, then you're one step closer towards your dream. I hope those points really helped you today. Whether you're a student pilot or interested in aviation and you haven't even taken your first FAM flight, that's familiarization flight, or you're in the middle of your commercial training or flight instructor, wherever you are in your journey, I hope this inspired you and encouraged you today. And if you didn't know about the 99s or Women Aviation International, go check them out. Their websites are really easy to navigate. Definitely check them out and find your chapter and start building your community today. Lastly, this podcast can't grow without you. I would be honored if you would be willing to join the Skyward Podcast Patreon community today for exclusive bonus episodes, one-on-one calls with me, early access to content, and shoutouts from the end of every episode. Your support means more inspiring content and educational stories with your direct input. Be part of Skyward's founding steps. I would be thrilled if you'd be willing to join. Click the link below and join for as little as $5 Canadian a month for those who are in Canada. That means it's actually cheaper for you living in the United States. Just a little thought out there. But thank you so much for listening. I so appreciate all of your support, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Fly high, dream big, and I'll see you next time.